All right, hello and welcome to our latest sales chat. We're just going live now on YouTube. Okay, we are live. Perfect. Okay. There's always a little bit of a lag. Okay, so today we're going to talk about sales enablement, how to be effective with sales enablement. And if you want to join in, it's the same as usual. Go on Twitter, hashtag sales chats. And my colleague, Martha, who is in Vienna. Hi, Martha. Yes, there's
Hi.
Martha in Vienna. Martha is going to be working the Twitter chat. And if something interesting comes up, she's going to interrupt us and give it to us. Otherwise, she'll be answering. And today, I am delighted to be joined. I'm delighted to be joined by Roderick Jefferson, who's up in the Bay Area in San Francisco. How are you doing, Roderick?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm fantastic as well. And Roderick was named as the leading sales enablement consultant by Selling Power, and he's focused on driving growth in small to mid-sized companies and Fortune 500 corporations. So perfect person to talk about this. My name is John Golden, as usual, from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. So let's get straight into it, Roderick, right? What are the traits? I mean, what is it that makes a really great sales enablement leader? And then maybe before you even answer that, maybe baseline for everybody what your definition of sales enablement.
Sure. So yeah, great question. First of all, sales enablement is one of those things where if you ask 10 people what it is, you'll get 12 answers. The way we define it is breaking the complexity of sales enablement into practical ideas through scalable, repeatable practices that lead to increased revenue. So what does that really mean? Getting the right teams in the right conversation with the right tools at the right time with the right level. So it's really about making sure that we are sales partners. We're not sales scribes, and we're certainly not someone that is the fixer of broken things. I think IT's got that worked out. No disrespect to IT at all. But our job is to make sure that we understand their needs and also work independently with the folks out, whether it be prospects, whether it be customers, and then bring that back to the internal organizations. I call us the translators of dialects and languages. We've got to be able to speak marketing, product marketing, HR, product management, and then translate that back into sales speak and into assets that are usable and useful for our sales folks that will decrease time to revenue and increase productivity.
Yeah. Great. That was great explanation there, because I think the whole thing about sales enablement, right? I mean, it's the key, the word enablement. It should be something that makes it easier to sell, that makes it more efficient, that increases productivity. It's not just throwing tools and assets at something, right? Because let's face it, we all suffer from shiny new toy syndrome, and it's very easy to go, oh, did you see this new software? Did you see this new software? It can do all of, but it's really about understanding, right, your own buyer, your target buyer, their buying process, making sure your selling process is aligned, and then how can you make that more efficient and reduce any of the maybe not so valuable tasks that salespeople are doing on a daily basis.
John, you absolutely nailed it. It's no longer about just training folks or getting assets out there. It's really understanding the buyer's journey, where we fit into the buyer's journey. It's not about the sales process, the sales methodology, even the sales stages. Those are great if you understand how those now fit into your buyer's journey and you provide the right tools and assets along the way. I have always lived by the philosophy that you train animals and you enable people. So for that reason, I think it's great to step back and say, how can I make them bigger, faster, and stronger? And also, how can I increase their opportunity for selling time? You know, there are going to be administrative pieces, right? That's just a given in any job.
Yeah.
But how can we help them to spend more time in front of prospects and with customers, moving deals forward that are going to make their customers and or prospects, depending upon where you are in the sales stages, how are we going to make them more effective and more efficient?
Yeah, it's 100%, Roderick, because let's face it, at the end of the day, there's a lot of busy work that goes on. There's a lot of distractions. People sort of say we're the busiest we've ever been, but I always answer that with saying, no, we're the most distracted we've ever been. And I think that's part of it is just exactly what you said, is being focused on the things that really matter, and really understanding your buyer. And I think that's one of the key pieces here, is really understanding your buyer, and then understanding what are the things that need to be automated, that need to be removed, barriers that need to be removed, but in order to get you more time with your prospects and your customers and increase experience. Because let's face it, Roderick, to most buyers today, regardless of whether we like this or not, they really do see most products and services as commodities, right? They don't really see a massive amount of difference between them, and it's much easier to jump from one product to another. It's much easier. It's easier than it's ever been. There used to be the whole issue of switching costs. Now, it's not such a big deal anymore. So how then do you differentiate yourself? It has to be with the customer experience right from the first time they engage with your brand, right?
You again absolutely nailed it. I've said for years and years, my belief has been you don't sell services, you don't sell products, you don't even sell solutions. You sell the experience. And that comes from taking time to really do that deep dive discovery and qualification, understanding where the prospect is today, where they're trying to go to, what their needs are, what success looks like to them, not to you. And then internally, it's about listening to your internal customers as well, your sales folks, your product marketing, product management, et cetera, and not giving sales what we think they need. We have to really step back and say, how can we help you and what's missing today? And here's an example. I love going out with customers, right? And so when I was in corporate, I would go out with our sales folks just to listen and then come back and take that information and say, hey, product marketing, absolutely love the pitch, but we get to slide 8, gets a little fuzzy. What can we do to smooth that out or remove it? Go to product management and say, hey, I've heard the same request 10 times from 10 different prospects and customers. How do we get that moved up on the release cycle? Go back now to HR and say, you know what? You and sales need to get together and really figure out where we're going as a company, because we've been so focused on ICP, our ideal client or customer profile. We need to step back and really focus on IEP, which is our ideal employee profile. We can't continue to hire the same kind of folks today to get us across the chasm to where we're trying to go. We're going to need to up-level things. Maybe now it's about transactional deals and we're moving more to a larger upscale enterprise relationship purchase. So all those things have to come together and they have to be aligned similar to the stars to make sure that you're doing the right things with the right people at the right time.
Yeah, so which is great advice, Roderick, because what you're really saying here is that everything needs to be done in a deliberate fashion, and also connecting, right? It's not enough to have just sales out there doing their own thing. There has to be that loop back. There has to be that marketing alignment, as you said. HR and personnel, another one. There has to be that alignment so that you get the right people. But it seems basically the essence of what you're saying here is you have to look at everything and take a deliberate approach rather than just let things unfold. And that probably at the end of the day is the essence of sales enablement, is taking a deliberate approach.
Absolutely. You know, hope, a lot of people hope that this is going to work. We hope we get the right hires. We hope that the prospects will say yes. We hope that we can close a big deal. I believe hope's not a strategy. If you don't have a plan behind that, then it's just going to die. And that plan also has to include 2 other pieces. One is coaching, because we believe that the first and the frontline manager is where the rubber meets the road. If they don't buy into what enablement is, quote unquote, selling or what we're providing to them, it's going to die on the vine. Unfortunately, most managers were rock star sales folks, got promoted to management, and never were actually taught how to coach or be a leader. So we focus on the first and second line manager. The other piece is around validation. If you don't inspect, how can you expect? The old analogy, right? So things like accreditations, withstand and deliver, certifications, to make sure that not only do we have the right messaging that's hitting the market properly at the right time, but that we validate that everyone is speaking from the same book and even from the same chapter and same line. And then the last piece that ties it all together are metrics. And I love this part. I get really excited about it because a lot of folks consider metrics things like, you know, NPS scores and butts and seats. Not us. Metrics go well beyond that. If you are not focused on things that are going to be revenue generating, then you're missing the mark. And I believe that there are two different types of metrics. And there are one that enablement influences. Things like, accreditation and certification completion, average deal size, collateral use and frequency, pipeline created, closed deals, product mix, all those things, time to revenue, win percentages. Then there's some things that enablement owns, things like the accreditation bills and the validation around those, the needs analysis, making sure that we're constantly doing program-based surveys so that, again, we're getting the feed in and the buy-in from the field and from the sales leadership. Things around content management, learning management, e-learning statistics, accreditations, all of those things we own. But the other piece, we influence. And when I hear sales enablement folks say, we own time to revenue and decreasing, no, we don't. So please stop that, because we are influencers and we are partners that help to drive that, but we don't own it. Unless you're carrying a bag and you're out there closing deals, we're influencers.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as well, Roderick, as you touched on here, I think when people think metrics, right, they very often set up what are lagging indicators, right? So, revenue, unfortunately it's a lagging indicator, right? It's deals closed and all that, lagging indicators. There's nothing you can do. They're fantastic data points, but you can't influence them. They're done and dusted, right? So it's really important to have leading indicators in there, and things like you said is speaking the same language, following the process to the detail. I mean, when I ran Huthwaite Spin Selling a long time ago, we used to say, okay, call planning is a leading indicator. If people are doing call planning properly, then it will have an outcome. So we would measure the effectiveness and how much people were call planning and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really key, isn't it, that people understand that there are a lot of different metrics, but you need to have a combination of leading and lagging indicators.
Absolutely, because if you only have those lagging, then by the time those actually come in, it may be too late to iterate and impossible to make that change. And you may be so far down the road that now credibility is lost with your internal customers, your external customers, with your partners and alliances, and with your leadership team. So again, you're really spot on that if you don't have those leading and those lagging, it's that gap in the middle that starts to bubble up and become this ugly monster, and you don't realize it until it's way too late.
So what are some of the challenges that sales enablement leaders face? Because, as we said at the beginning, some people still don't really understand what it is. Some people think, well, it's just sales operations in another guise, right? So basically you're just there to pick up the pieces or just supply us with stuff or whatever. And what are some of the challenges you face in having people understand the importance of sales enablement and also to partner with you to make it successful?
Great question. And it starts with that last word, partner. I think there are a lot of sales enablement folks that I've seen over the years and different programs where people are trying to, again, build and deliver what they think sales needs. And it also starts with credibility. Now, I started in sales. I was a BDR. I was an AE before coming over. So carrying a bag adds an enormous amount of credibility, because we know sales folks. If you're not one of us, you're on the other side of the fence. If you don't know the proverbial secret handshake of sales, you're not one of us, right? So being able to stand up in front of a group and first and foremost say, I'm one of you. I was a salesperson. I'm still a salesperson, still carrying a bag to this day, even as a CEO. So credibility is critical. Providing value, and value comes in a number of ways. Most of the time, value actually comes from listening, not from telling. And not just listening, but hearing them and being able to articulate that in a plan that shows that especially the sales leaders, that they are a part of that plan and you're not going around them and you truly are partnering with them. So ask questions. I've always believed that the most 3 credible words on the planet besides I love you are I don't know. But people are afraid of that. Don't be afraid to say I don't know, because then you have an opportunity to learn and even deepen that partnership, especially with sales. Because sales folks, you say I don't know and they're ready to give you everything. You just have to take it from a human and credible and truly genuine place. The next is communications. Communicate, make sure that you've got a charter, and that charter has to say what you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for. Because the problem is, as you said, John, sales enablement becomes the catch-all. We need something done, it's broken, throw it to sales enablement. We need
Yep.
more training. We're not getting enough pipeline. We're having a problem with discovery and qualification. We need more training. Great, you may need training, but that's not enablement. The next piece is organizational alignment. As we were saying earlier, sales enablement is that hub that spokes out to every other part of the organization. You've got to make sure that you are the one that not only connects the dots, but also make sure that those alignments stay in place. Again, going back to my analogy earlier, think of it from a musical perspective with an orchestra. You've got a lot of instruments playing random notes until one person, the conductor, steps up, taps the stand, and now it becomes a beautiful piece of music. Sales enablement is that conductor.
And I think that's a great analogy. I think the musical conductor is a fantastic analogy, Roderick. So let me ask you. I've got two questions for you. I'll start with the first one, right? If you were advising a company or an organization that's decided, okay, we're going to start our first real sales enablement initiative this year, what are some of the things you advise them to do so that they set the foundation, so they don't try and slice the elephant all at once, but they start with a good foundation and the most effective things that they can, because you want to build on success. So what are the things where they can get early successes?
There are 4 steps to that. And the first is don't assume. We start with an assessment, and that assessment is designed to identify knowledge and skill gaps, really with a focus on where are they going? Are they a growing, hyper growth rocket ship company? If so, let's focus on your onboarding and your new hires. Again, starting back with the right ideal employee profile, looking at what we want them to do functionally, looking at it by role, and then by program, and then finally by tools, and tying all that together again to where does this fit into the buyer's journey. The second piece is then, once you've determined that, you've got to understand who are the people, what are the processes, what are the programs, all of those that come into play, right? And how are those all aligned? And so 5 Ps. What's the purpose? Understanding it from your culture and your charter, et cetera. What does success look like? What people are required? What's the right structure? What talent's needed? What's compensation driving? And how are you creating more leaders and not just followers? The third P is programs, onboarding. What are your global initiatives? Where do you sit in the competitive landscape and how do you articulate that? What's your true domain expertise? And most importantly, what problems do you solve for your customers uniquely that your competitors don't solve or can't solve? The 4th P is performance, around how are you communicating things? What does coaching look like, as we talked about earlier? How do you focus on now continuous learning and education after you've done that new hire? And then, of course, what are the metrics that are important to your organization? And final P is platforms. How do you scale? How do you automate? And how is all of this continually being communicated?
Fantastic. Yeah, so those are great. So I hope people rewind this and go through that again, because Roderick has outlined something very easy to follow and very practical. So the last thing I'd like to ask you, Roderick, okay, is sales enablement has become obviously a big topic over the last year or two. Where do you see it going? And let's face it, we're in a world and in an industry where we love new things, and new things come and it's all like, oh, go focus over here. It's like marketing. It's like, oh, inbound marketing, now run over to account-based marketing, now run over here. Where do you see the future of sales enablement?
You know, there's a lot of shiny syndrome out there, and you're absolutely right. Hey, look over here, look over here. Where I see it going is really 2 places, and it's going to sound oxymoronic. One is more automation, things like AI and machine learning playing a larger play in the sales enablement space, right? You know, we're doing some things around AI now on the back end with our metrics for the clients that we work with, where we can literally feed this into a proprietary tool. And what it does, it being all of the responses from our gap analysis surveys that we've done, And what it does is actually spits out two things. One, keywords that we heard over and over. And secondly, key themes. So now when we go back and we're talking in our executive summaries, we can say, here's what your people said. Here's where they say the problems are. Here's where the connections are. And here's some key themes that we recommend focusing on. Some short-term low-hanging fruit, as well as some long-term. We couldn't do that before. You know, there are some other tools, you know, like Crystal that ties into LinkedIn, where before you reach out to a prospect, you can literally go and click with that tool and see what they're, based upon the wording and the content of their LinkedIn profile, you can now see what their personality is. This person doesn't like chit chat. This person is really personable. These are things you need to know that are going to give you a leg up and a step up so that you now understand where it's going. And now the oxymoronic piece. It's going to require even more of a human touch. And what I mean is people still buy from people, right? When it comes to coaching, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, it's going to come down to making sure that those leaders are truly leading and coaching and not just managing. You're not talking about the prospect. You're not talking about a patch. You're talking about people. So on one hand, we're going to automate more going forward. On the other hand, it's going to require even more focus on the customer journey and how to make sure from a human perspective, we can humanize the technology and we can also humanize the experience of working with us.
Yeah, and I love that, Roderick, because I think that is really, really important. Because yes, I think we should automate and use technology and AI and everywhere we can, where it makes sense, right? But
Agreed.
our goal should not be like we've all seen with organizations in the past, ones that we communicate with maybe in our personal lives, maybe when you're trying to contact your health provider or whatever, and it looks like they have invested a ton of time to make sure that you will never ever get to a human being, right?
Oh, it's not just me that's going through the phone chain, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So I
crazy
think
out there.
what we're talking about here is automate and use everything that enhances the customer, the prospect experience, but also frees up the salesperson to have more of that human interaction.
Yes, never forget. And I always, when I start with those 5 Ps, when you rewind, it always starts with people. You know, where we are responsible ultimately for processes and programs and tools and programs, et cetera. Ultimately, we are in the people business in enablement.
Yeah.
And that's why I absolutely love this space, because it gives you an opportunity to continually learn about people, about new tools, about prospects, about new spaces to sell into, and to understand new technology. But what sits on all of that is, how do you humanize all of those? So to go back to what I said earlier, so that you're not selling products, you're not selling solutions, you're truly selling the experience of being able to work with your company that is unique, and or with you, the individual, that is unique, that no one or no other company can provide.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful summary, Roderick. Because yes, it's about the experience and that differentiation that everybody is looking for. It comes from the experience, and the experience is the totality of the experience. It's not just one piece. You can't just make one piece good and be let down by the other pieces. It has to be seen in the aggregate, right?
Absolutely, it is the sum of all parts, because
Mhm.
nothing's always going to be 100%. But what has to be 100% always is that people, that human experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, this is fantastic, Roger. Before we go, what we always like to ask our guests is to give us a power tip. What do you, Roderick, personally do to set yourself up for success every day?
Well, it's right behind me on that board over my shoulder. I
I
write
can see
down
it.
3 things that I'm going to do today that has to be completed before I walk away from my laptop. And it may be one personal thing of those 3, and the other 2 are always business. When you get to a point where what you do overcomes who you are, invariably, what you do will always win. So of those 3, 1 personal, 2 professional. The other thing I do is I actually mark that out in 3 columns. One column is all of my long-term goals for the company. The middle piece is what am I going to do today? And the outside third column are things that are on the horizon that are coming that will be able to replace the things that are in that first column once they're knocked off.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love it. That's great. I'm a big believer in having things, visual elements there in front of you, whether it's your goals, your gratitude, or whatever it is. Have them there because there's something very powerful about seeing something every day, and it's even better if you write it down like that. It's even more powerful. It's actually been proven, or there's research, and this is something that always disturbs people who are really technology based, but it says that actually if you physically write down something with a pen or a marker, the chances of you actually executing on that task goes up exponentially.
Because
If
it's
you
now
just make
time bound and measurable, right? You
well,
have to see that.
also because there's something about the physical act of writing that carries more power than just typing it into a to-do list on your computer.
Absolutely agree 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, before we go, Roderick, can you tell people a little bit more about yourself, your company, what you do, and how they can learn more about you? And we'll have everything in your bio as well, but also like to give you a chance to tell people about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So again, I'm Roderick Jefferson. I'm the CEO of Roderick Jefferson and Associates. We are a sales enablement, sales consulting, and sales coaching firm that focuses on two things: decreasing time to revenue and increasing productivity from a structure, from an organizational and an architectural perspective. In English, we help your people find more time. We help you set up the right processes and programs and tools. We help you decrease time to revenue. We help you make sure that your sellers are more effective and more productive. And we all do it by starting with the customer journey. And where you can find us, we're all over social media. We're on LinkedIn, at Roderick Jefferson Associates, on Twitter at The Voice of Rod, as well as Facebook at The Voice of Rod, and also on Instagram at Roderick_J_Associates. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help you out.
Listen, thank you very much, Roderick. And Martha in Vienna, how was the Twitter chat today?
Yeah, very good today. So we had very interesting responses and a lot of retweets. So check it out.
Excellent. So go to Twitter and check out #SalesChats and see what the audience today had to say on the topic that we're talking about. Listen, thanks again, Roderick. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. Thank you for joining us for this sales chat. It's going to be available as a replay. So I really do recommend that anybody who is listening or joining in the Twitter chat, please share this with your friends and colleagues, because Roderick has outlined some really, really practical things around sales enablement. And it has become such a buzzword and so nebulous in so many ways that it's great to have something that's practical, well-defined, and executable. So thank you for that, Roderick.
Thank you very much. My honor.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you soon for another sales chat. Thank you. Bye now.